All right, well, I'm Lori H. Schwartz. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called StoryTech. And at heart, we're an experiential marketing company. I do a lot of curating for events like this, a lot of hosting and moderating tech events. I have a big event in a month and a half called Infinity Festival in Hollywood, so definitely come check it out. It's storytelling and technology, and it all happens at the Goya Studios in the middle of Hollywood. So we do a lot of looking at the future of content. And at heart, I have to say right now, especially with this topic about what is the hype, what's going on with the Metaverse and Web3 and all of this, it is literally a party for curators. Because curators are all about creating an umbrella of understanding around topics and delivering that content in some form. And right now, there is so much hype and so much hyperbole about Web3 and Metaverse and NFT. You know, there's always like a couple of topics like that every couple of years that you could swing a dead cat and you'll hit the word Metaverse. In fact, I used to play a drinking game a couple months ago, and whenever somebody said Metaverse, you did a shot. And let's just say I got pretty wasted. So, these expressions, the hype, all of it, you know, it's hard to figure out what's real. So what I'm going to attempt to do is sort of take you through as a curator, because I'm working with a lot of industry associations, what's real and how you should be thinking about it too, just some basic steps. And then we'll talk a little bit because it's an intimate audience. And those of you in the back, there's all these gifts in the front seats under the chairs. So hi, Liz. So you can come and get it. So we're going to talk a little bit again about what's real and what's not. And again, I want to just do some defining, and I know you guys have probably already talked about this today, but again, Web3 meaning a new iteration of the World Wide Web. It's just basically at the heart, it's the next version of everything. And what it's really about is decentralization, right? Decentralization, it's blockchain-based technologies, it's AI helping to empower more intelligence and more adaptive applications. It's all these things that are happening in our world right now, 5G as well, all these behaviors, everything that's being driven is all coming under this umbrella of Web3. And I want to just say right now that the Metaverse, NFTs, and all these other buzzwords are tactics inside of this larger Web3 environment. And so everyone loves to throw around Metaverse and Web3, you know, together, but Web3 is just the next version of the internet. The Metaverse is an execution that becomes an example of Web3 inside of virtual environments. So everyone's cool about that concept, right? And what I want to do is see if we can get to an agreement at the end of this that we should be talking more strategically and less tactically, right? And it's good to have a bag of tricks, but in the end, we have to be strategic. And so if you walk away with anything today, I want you to go, okay, what's my strategy for moving forward? And I'll get you this, you guys can have this deck because there's a couple of really fun slides. And Liz Herzog's in the audience, and she knows everything about everything, so you have to... All right, so I wanted to share this slide with you because sometimes this is what it feels like. And this is Evan Shapiro. And if you guys don't know Evan Shapiro, you got to look him up. He has a great stack of content. And every week and every month, he's publishing these Mediaverse maps. And he does them for every topic, streaming or AI or you name it. And he helps graphically map what the industry is doing. And so this was his breakdown of the Web3 cosmos. And again, you see these little different categories. You know, you have blockchain, you have NFTs, you have Metaverse. And so again, walleting, even languages. And these are all, again, tools in the toolkit. But it gets, again, very overwhelming because every article you read just uses two words, Metaverse and NFT, and it makes me crazy. How many of you does it make crazy? You're just like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do? You know, so let's just ignore that for now, or you could do what I do, and I keep a bottle of tequila and a shot glass next to me. And again, when I hear Metaverse, I just do a shot. Here's another map that I think makes a little bit more sense, and this actually breaks it down. So what we're talking about here is gateways. How do we get to the Metaverse? So I have some technology clients, and they're all trying to figure out where they live in the path to get to the metaverse. So we have someone like an NVIDIA whose real-time GPUs is really powering a lot of these real-time graphics. And we have hardware providers that are being the on-ramp to getting to the metaverse. And we have all these different players that are part of this story. So there's user interface, there is payment, there's social, and there's also the economy, which is another one that gets overhyped, right? All we're hearing about is the blockchain. And we're hearing about crypto and how scary it is. Not all of it is scary, but some of it is. And there is some issues with regulations around all of that. And so a lot of brands have stayed away from it. But things are changing in that space too. So just keep in mind, when you look at these categories, and again, you guys can have these slides, you start to see that this doesn't look that much different than maybe Web 1 or Web 2 in terms of we need an on-ramp, we need a social, we need a payment. It's the same categories, it's just different players in different modalities. Does that make sense to everybody? So I wanted to talk for a moment about the business side and just say to you that there are a ton of organizations out there right now that are trying to wrap their heads around this and make it more digestible. So one of them is called the Metaverse Standards Forum, and they are actually put together by NVIDIA. You can join the Metaverse Forum, and they're having tons of conversations about taking up discussions about this, because one of the biggest concerns about this space is that if everyone has their own metaverse, or if everyone has their own version of crypto or wallets or whatever you're building in the Web3 umbrella, then how are we going to find each other? We're all going to be in our own metaverses, and we're back to where we are right now, where I have, a Android desktop, but then I have an Apple TV, and then I have this and I have that. And to me, it's just repeating itself again. And so there are a lot of smart people out there who want this to standardize. And so definitely check out the Metaverse Standards Forum. And they have principal members who have joined. And if you go, once you join, and it doesn't cost anything to join, and look at how many people have joined this thing. And the other funny thing about it is I'm actually a participant member, and I was so excited when I joined. I was like, oh, I get my logo on here. And it took me like a half hour to find my logo, but I was still really excited. But they have, there's a Google Doc right now on this where they've broken into groups, and they're tackling different business categories. So there are people out there that are really trying to land the plane on this, okay? So definitely check these guys out. And that's what I would lean on right now, too, is organizations that have a bit of a neutrality to them and are trying to land all of this madness. The other thing, one of the things that everybody wanted me to talk about here was that I'm helping to initiate this advisory council for the NAB. Does everybody know the NAB show? Raise your hand if you know the NAB show. Okay, the National Association of Broadcasters. It's a bi-yearly show. There's one in October in New York and one in April. And what they're trying to understand is, what do broadcasters do in Web3? What should they be preparing? And as an association, just like a brand or a content company, they're trying to figure out, what should we provide to our attendees, to our association members? How can we, as the National Association of Broadcasters, bring value? So I helped drive the forming of this council, and we have about 15 leaders in the community, and they're all from big, large companies, and we meet every other month, and we're trying to tackle issues. And one of the issues that we were discussing is, what can we do at the April 2023 NAB show that will connect back, that will have meaning? And it's really interesting because there are two conversation tracks going on there, and this is another way to think about it. There is, what should the attendees experience attending the show? How can NAB have a Web3 experience for attendees? And then the other track is, what should broadcasters and businesses do and prepare for Web3? So there's almost the consumer story and the business story. And I'm seeing that reflected over and over again, because a lot of the hype is around the consumer experience, right? But there is real business opportunities here and things that we should all be looking at and doing. This is a survey that I did with the members of this association. And I asked them, what are some of your pain points in this space? Now, these are all B2B tech companies, there are broadcast companies. There was one or two actual networks who answered the question. And it's just interesting because when you take, like 20 people and you ask them questions and you're like, oh my God, we got such a great reaction, but it's just 20 people. But I wanted you to at least see these are the things that are aggravating them. And it's the same things, I'm sure, that are causing some stress for you guys too in your businesses. There's customer loyalty, retention. How do we keep our clients engaged? How do we transform the current content media business into a Web3 business? And there's so much talk about decentralization and getting rid of the media company so that consumers can go straight to delivering their content out to the world, that you have all these networks and brands going, wait a minute, we're not going to be cut out of our business. So they're all trying to figure out, what do we do? And also, people want to do something and they don't know what to do. So these are all the same fears. There's also just a lack of understanding of all these different words that we're all hearing. And a lot of fluff. How many of you think half the stuff going on is just BS? And just be honest. Okay, a few of you. How many of you are content creators? Okay, a few of you. How many of you are tech companies or are providing some sort of solution in this space? Okay. And are you hearing similar fears from a lot of your clients? Like, what should they be doing? Yes? Here's another question I asked them. I said, what's relevant to you? Here are some of the conversations in the public discourse right now, some of the issues that are bubbling up for everybody. And interestingly, user experience across Web3 platforms came up a lot. And this came up a lot also in just our discussions. Again, going back to, well, how do I navigate and what do I do? And if I'm in this metaverse or I'm in this wallet or I'm on this cryptocurrency, how do I move around? And what does this all mean? And there's no synergies and I can't talk to each other. And, I don't know if you've ever, if you have a friend who's really active in virtual metaverse spaces, and you ever took a look at the different versions of their avatars per platform, it's actually a really fun thing to do, because you'll start to notice, yeah, they look the same kind of, but there's some weird little tweaks happening per platform. Not that you guys have so much time on your hands to do it, but it's just really interesting that all the avatars in all these different metaverses are different, have different capabilities, and it's a mind blow navigating this. Like, jump on this platform tonight, or jump on that one, or wait, do I have a user and password for that one, and what do I do? So that's a big question. And then again, standardization comes up all the time. So these are all the things that are going on out there that our people are concerned about. And then I just today, this morning, and I sometimes do this, I just Googled Metaverse and Web3 just to see, okay, what's going on out there? And there were a ton of articles about what companies are doing. And what you start to see is that everyone is doing something to get started, to get some learnings. So NVIDIA made a big announcement this week. Their GDC conference, their private conference for their developers was this week, and they announced that their Omniverse platform is now going to be providing cloud services in 100 companies. And if you haven't checked out or heard about Omniverse, you have got to check it out, because it is a B2B solution for getting into a metaverse. It's allowing for digital twins. And does everyone know what digital twins is? Yes, kind of? Yes, okay. Does anyone want me to explain it? Okay, so it's basically when you build a digital replica of a business or an infrastructure or a building or an enterprise or anything, and then you can actually duplicate problems in the real world in that digital version. That's why it's called a digital twin. So Amazon actually builds digital twins of its factory and tests out problems so that when they go to build the real factory, they've already worked solutions out. And if something bad is happening in a real factory, they can solve for it in the digital twin first and then fix it. So digital twins for businesses is becoming a huge business. And so part of what NVIDIA is doing is providing tools to businesses to create their own digital twin or metaverses. Luxury is a huge area in this space. Fashion, all of these guys are doing something, allowing for virtual trying on or going into worlds and seeing fashion or seeing brands. And then I listened to a video with the Accenture CEO, and she talked about how over the last year, they have onboarded thousands of new employees using metaverses. So using virtual workspaces, where especially during COVID, she could host town halls and meetings in metaverses. So you put on your VR headset, and you're actually standing next to people from all over the world, and you're being onboarded into Accenture's, needs and spaces and all of that. So just really interesting that businesses are staying true to their own business and trying out experiences in this space. And that's a strategic point, right? It's not a tactic. They're saying, who are we as a business, and what could we do to explore more things in this space? And then on the consumer side, and I told you it's kind of interestingly split between businesses and consumers, and am I offering consumer-centric services, or am I looking at down the road, how is my business going to survive? And here's some surveys that United Talent did, and I just think they're really interesting. So consumers are already active inside metaverse-like experiences. So 60% are creating customized avatars, and I don't have, I should have this, but who they interviewed, but it was primarily a young millennial audience. Oh, thank you so much, because I'm coughing. I have non-ending bronchitis. I mean, I'm not contagious, don't worry. No, it's all right, you're fine. I think it's just a stress or whatever. It's Spilkus, as my people. Hold on. Also selling virtual items, which if you have any kids and they're always asking you for Robux from Roblox, or if they're in Minecraft or anything like that, that is a big area. And look, my 13-year-old is begging me for money for these digital objects all the time. So in a couple of years, that's the world she's growing up in. So we have to pay attention to that. And then also interacting and socializing with people. A couple of weeks ago, I went and joined a theatrical experience in a VR headset, and that's immersive theater. And I was part of the chorus, but I was also watching the show, but I was participating. And that's a new phenomena. That's like those shows in New York, like Sleep No More, or Tony and Tina's Wedding, that was way before, where you as the audience are part of the show. Well, now you're part of the Greek chorus inside a VR headset. And again, you're standing next to someone who could be anywhere in the world, but you're both having this experience. And then also exploring different worlds in different gaming platforms. And there's not a day that goes by where there's not an announcement about another gaming platform purchasing a 3D technology or an AI technology or something to play in this space. And so when you look at the technology inside of Web3, and you start to see all these companies lining up the bits and pieces of their own worlds to have great GPU power, AI engines, blockchain backend, social consumer, interfaces that allow for people to interact in their world. So you're starting to see everybody purchase up and gobble up all that technology stack so they can play in this space. Does that make sense to everybody? And then consumers are expecting a better experience in the metaverse. They want to, have fitness routines. How many of you have put on a VR headset and exercised? Anybody here? Okay, quite a few of you. Okay. So I was doing Supernatural for a long time, which is sort of like swinging bats at things. And it was great. During COVID, it really did get me moving. I mean, I'm back at gym and Pilates and all of that, but and I find myself not wanting to do it now because I'd rather be out in the world. But I think there are times when I just, I don't have time. So that's an interesting solution. And by the way, high schools are looking at how do we, on rainy days, give our kids something to do? And so they're operationalizing the use of VR headsets. So my daughter's high school teacher is constantly asking me, okay, Facebook Meta just changed its software. So now all of my headsets that were registered under the same name with the same app, now I have to download the app uniquely on all these headsets. And you know how expensive that is for a school? And so he was calling me to say, is there any enterprise solutions for this? So that's another issue, is education. Education is going to need solutions in this space, and right now there's no one at these large companies really thinking about this. So you name any business category, and even these consumer experiences from a B2B perspective are overlapping. There's so much opportunity here. Like someone could own education in all of these categories, right? Planning trips, travel, shopping, eating, even experiencing travel, all of these things are going to be playing out in these different environments with, again, the use of 5G, AI, blockchain as the back end, graphical interfaces, user experiences that are interesting and work. So this is all part of the game. So this is just my last slide, and I was hoping we could, have a good conversation about all this together. But my strategic advice to everyone right now is practice. Get some experience here. Don't deviate from what your core mentality is or capabilities are or services are, but look at using this Web3 package of tools to build something that makes sense to you and try it out. You don't have to spend a fortune in playing in this space. You can do little things that help get you some experience, but you don't have to be reactive to the hype. But you do need to get your feet wet and to get some learnings. But you already have expertise in your business category, so don't throw the baby out with the bathwater because it's illegal, but also it's not kind. So, so you want to be very careful about how you navigate. So I want to open it up to questions, and I'll bring back that fun slide up here and just see, like, maybe you guys could just share with me some of your challenges or fears in this space right now, because it is really overwhelming how to move forward in this. So anybody want to, raise an issue that they're having in this space right now, or a question back there? Is someone raising their hand? No? What about my friend in the front row here? So that's a great question, and I think it's just the association with blockchain that pushed everybody to crypto, but I'm actually seeing a lot of folks move to using credit cards and having wallets connected to credit cards, or even skipping walleting in general. Like one NFT provider, they're like a gaming solution, and they are using email to be able to purchase and create an account, and then you can just use a credit card. So I think that that's going to change too. But, there's a lot of people who have a heavy stake in crypto succeeding and people making money in it. And I'm not saying that that's not important and real or won't be around, but I also think there are a lot of regulation issues, and there has been a lot of fraud, and so people are very nervous. So we are seeing sort of hybrid mixes now of credit card solutions, and also packages that are rolling out that don't require walleting. Because, I don't know, how many of you have bought NFTs? Okay, and how many of you have multiple wallets on your phone? And how many of you haven't even seen some of your NFTs in a while because you can't remember which wallet or whatever? Yeah, same thing with me. I'm like, I know I had that thing, but I can't find it. Like the last thing I need is to wonder where my NFT is. I'm just trying to remember, am I supposed to pick my kid up right now? So, you don't want to leave her alone, so that's my own problem. But so what I'm saying is that this is moving into a world of where we're going back to the things that consumers are comfortable with. And so businesses are saying, my base won't use crypto and doesn't like walleting, so what can I do instead? So I'm starting to see more rollouts of hybrid solutions in that space. So that's a great point. More questions? Yes, you? Oh, yes. And is that related to the metaverse? No? Okay. That's an interesting question. I am not hearing that, but I am not the most versed on the numbers right now in that space. I'll tell you the frustration that this university professor has and my high school colleague has, in that Facebook Meta isn't really rolling out enterprise solutions. So people are pushing people to Steam and to other headsets providers, and also even metaverses like Engage or like Guy's platform, to do things in instead of using a Meta experience and going on an app. Because if you need a business solution for 100 people at something, you need something that you can manage and that can work. And they're not doing that. So they have to set themselves up for success. And it's still a little too expensive for your average Joe, $300 or whatever it is, to get the latest device. Because I was at a Silicon Valley event, and I asked all these entrepreneurs, how many of you own a headset, an Oculus headset? And only like 2 out of like the 30 in a room. And I was blown away because they're entrepreneurs. They're like doing startups. And I'm like, you would think that they would have a headset in their office just because you need to right now be seeing what everyone else is doing. Like there's no new startup right now that isn't dealing with a lot of these technologies that we just talked about. So that blew me away, and that's because that $300 or $400 price is still too steep, to do development on. Question back there? Somebody raised their hand? Yes, you? Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last. That's a great question. Again, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. So right now there are platforms, again, like Guy's platform or Verbella or Engage, that lets you enter a metaverse using your desktop. And so you're controlling the body, the virtual body, through your keyboard. And so you don't need a headset, and you don't need to go into this whole virtual world. You can still do it if you don't own any of that stuff. So I'm seeing a lot of that on the metaverse side, and then I am seeing digital social objects being exchanged that are not being called NFTs, but that are paralleling the concept behind NFTs. Because you want to reward your fan with something. And so we're seeing a lot of new modalities in sports and in other franchises where they're coming up with like NFT trading cards. And so you can scan the NFT and put it in your wallet, or you get the trading card. And so there's still hybrid things happening, but they're all looking at that fan behavior and like, what can I give and get? So that I think what's happening more than anything else is the behavior piece. That there's an expectation that if you want me to participate, you need to give me something, and I'll give you something back. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yes. Right, right. Yes. We talk about this a lot with my different curator friends, because we're all like, what is it going to take for all of us to get along? But in a capitalistic society, there is no incentive for them to all do something together. And so like that's why that forum I showed you and some other associations are looking at attacking that. What they're tending to attack, less about the technology and more about the ethics. So ethics is a big question right now, and you're seeing a lot of organizations rally around ethical behavior around AI and all of these different deep fake things, and how you treat each other in Discord and all these different things. So I'm seeing it more from a behavior, what's acceptable, than I am from a tech. There's no incentive for these tech platforms to try and create synergies. All that's happening right now is if you go to any tech conference, I have sponsors at the upcoming conference, and this upcoming conference, and they have partnerships with their competition. So there's never a thing where you go, oh, well, can you be on stage with blah, blah, blah? And they'll go, oh, well, we have a partnership with them. But they're competitive with them, too. So it's this weird mix right now of everyone's partnering with everyone. No one knows what's going to be the thing. And I think that's just the way it's going to be. I really do. This is always how it's been. It's how our homes are, right? Do you have one technology protocol in your home? You know, I have a room full of stuff that doesn't work anymore. You know, and I just think in America, unless you roll out, like, unless you're North Korea or Singapore or somewhere where you have a government who's forcing, you know, or China who's forcing the use of certain platforms that are thriving because everyone's using them, and so innovation is growing on those singular platforms. I just don't see it happening in this country or any Western country in the immediate future, unless there's incentive. Unless the U.S. government says, you guys create something and we'll give you some money, or we won't charge you taxes or something, you know, but what's their incentive to play well, you know? Anybody? Yeah, I mean, excuse me. I think part of the other challenge right now is, to your point, everyone is trying something and they don't know what's going to win. So the big brands are doing things right now to get the halo of the press, but they're not really going, this is the answer. They're just getting some learnings. And their investments in this space are the cost of doing business. No one is worried that I'm going to spend a lot of money in decentralized land or in any of these other places, and they're not worried that they're going to lose their shirt. They're just getting in the game now, they're getting some press, and they're getting some learnings. And any research person will tell you that when you build something, the data you get from building it is pretty insightful and worthwhile, even if that thing doesn't last. So right now, it's just about doing things, getting some press, and learning, you know? And learning also, having people on your team that have, you know, some core culture around.